Classroom management problems are never solved overnight, but getting on the right track is not as big a mystery as it can seem. Follow along, I got you. Hey, you, get off of that! Welcome back, team. This is Dr. Sitchy Parker, your teaching coach, is back for another training session. Remember, my goal with these videos is to help you develop your competence in all things teaching, help you find and strengthen your voice of advocacy for yourself and your students, and help you create justice by dismantling the systems of oppression all around you. After all, aren't these the reasons you went into teaching in the first place? As I'm recording this video, we're just finishing up in the month of February of 2023. It's just 2 weeks short of 3 years ago that the United States went into lockdown because of COVID. Anyone old enough to be watching this video in 2023 survived, but not all of your loved ones did. My condolences. And what we all went through together in isolation influenced every one of us in ways that will likely affect us for the rest of our lives. And while healthcare workers obviously were hit hard with what they went through, educators and students suffered greatly as well. Sadly, the economy of schools depended on getting back to normal as quickly as possible. And since in the United States schools are really the only form of subsidized daycare that working parents have, our entire economy depended on getting back to BAU, or business as usual. Dr. Howard Lamb in 1972 is credited with being the first person to publicly use the term the factory model of education to describe K-12 schools. And if students were little machines or blank slates or flower pots or some other inanimate objects that didn't feel things, maybe it would have been more feasible to just turn on the assembly lines and get production moving back at full speeds. But that's not how kids or teachers or humans work. There's a lot of research that supports the conclusion that the pandemic was very hard on the mental health of young people, and there's lots of research to support the conclusion that the pandemic was equally hard on the mental health of teachers. There is so much going on in teaching right now. Talk of the teacher shortage fills the air in teacher preparation programs and school district human resource offices around the country. Social media is filled with the hashtag #TeacherQuitTalk, and Facebook has at least 8 groups devoted to teachers who are leaving the field. From what I've been seeing by lurking around on those groups and on TikTok, student behavior is showing up as a prime motivator for teachers to turn in their ID badges. But I want to make something clear. Teachers aren't giving up because they don't believe in students. What I'm hearing on social media is that they're not feeling supported by their administrators, who are struggling as well. School systems in general, the elected people on the school boards, the people in state governments, and even society at large. There is nothing that I can do as your teaching coach to fix the world to that extent. What I'm about to show you is important because it will help you set expectations about what is reasonable to expect from yourself. How can you set boundaries with the world so you know when you've done what you need to do? There is so much gaslighting that goes on with teachers, and they get a lot of blame for not doing things that no one has ever clearly trained them to do. They get a lot of opinions that are often conflicting, and they ask for help. They're often told that if only they did this other thing, they'd be better off. Sorry, I wish I could help, but I'm really busy and you should already know how to do this. Don't you have a degree? What I'm about to share are the things I wish I had known about classroom management when I started teaching. Let me warn you, these 5 requirements come from a very behaviorist perspective. But we are talking about behavior here. These are not trauma-informed practices. They're not culturally responsive teaching per se, but I'll explain how to put that in a spin on them in a future video. And they will not fix behaviors that are based on students' neurology or any other biological system. Now here's the last thing before I share the 5 requirements. This video is the introduction of the requirements. Each of the next 5 videos that I make will take on one of the requirements and give you more details and examples. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get an alert when new examples are posted so you don't miss any of this important information. And finally, without any further delay, here they are. The first requirement is that you have to maximize the structure that you have in your classroom. You should have a plan for students for everything they might need to do from the moment they enter your space until the moment they leave. Have a system for turning in papers or grabbing computers or other devices. Have a system for handing out papers or a standard space in your Google Classroom where they get needed materials for class time. Students should be able to access bathroom passes without taking you away from your other duties or in a way that is the least intrusive to the flow of your teaching. You should have a plan for everything because any moment that's not planned is a place for things to go wrong. I think there's an expression that says, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Anyway, the second requirement is that you need to establish and teach your rules. Of course, I already have rules already, you might be saying. But do you review those rules daily or even hourly? Are those rules alive so that they are guiding the actions of your students? Are they a testament to the culture that you're trying to build in your room? Or do they only come out when you want to clobber a student over the head with them? We'll go into this deeper in a future video, but you should only have 3 to 5 rules and they should be stated positively so that you can catch students following the rules and reward them for it. The third requirement is that you need to actively engage students during instruction. Students should always know what they're being asked to do, and they should know that you're noticing when they're doing that, and that you love them for it. I don't know who said this first, but until shown otherwise, I'll take credit for it. The best behavior management program is engaging instruction. How do you know if you're being engaging? Well, you should be asking for a response from your students 3 to 5 times per minute. You heard that right. 3 to 5 times per minute. You need to ask your students to respond to a prompt every 12 to 20 seconds. You're going to need to work up to that. That doesn't just happen naturally. The fourth requirement is to use a variety of strategies to respond to appropriate behaviors. If you ignore every time a student does what you want them to be doing, there's no reason for them to keep doing what you want. I always talk about my puppies, and I have 2 beautiful pit bull puppies at home. And if I don't have a pocket full of treats, they don't care how many times I call their names, they're not coming when I call. But if they see me reaching into my pocket, they don't even need me to say their names and they're ready for action. I've got a lot more to say about this, so be sure to come back for more information in a future video. Finally, the 5th requirement is to use a variety of strategies to respond to inappropriate behaviors. As much as we want to be sweet and everybody's buddy all the time, sometimes we have to pull out that teacher voice or the teacher glare, or even an office referral form, or whatever it is that will really get somebody's attention. And these responses don't have to be aversive, but they do have to be thoughtful so that you don't end up playing into the hands of an experienced class clown. Sometimes we can actually cause more misbehavior if we respond in a bad way to what students are doing. So, if you can see from the citation on the screen, this is not research from last week. This has been around for a while, and this information has been shown to work. Let me tell you a little story about these ideas. Before I went to graduate school for my PhD, I was a special education teacher in a self-contained special education behavior program in an inner city middle school. I thought I knew what I was doing with behavior, and then I went and learned about these concepts in my grad program. I was a little suspicious because I'd never seen these ideas used, and I wondered if they really worked or if this was just the kind of stuff that educational psychologists wrote about in their ivory towers. I needed a way to see if this really made me a better teacher or not. So here's what I did. I had some unscheduled time during one of my semesters, and I still had my teaching license, so I became a substitute teacher. I was offered the perfect assignment to see if this was rubbish or if it was the key to the educational castle. I took a sub job at a predominantly black middle school. Remember from last week's video what I said about white educational psychologists? And it was the week before winter break. I thought if anything would test these concepts, this would be it. I won't lie, the first day was exhausting. The teacher that I was subbing for was a social studies teacher, so I created my list of classroom expectations, and I called it the Classroom Constitution. After I taught the rules I brought along, I had every kid come up and sign it in exchange for some candy. So I was already using the requirements. I was teaching the rules, I was using active engagement, I was responding to appropriate behaviors. If the students were with me and they were trying to learn, I asked them to move forward. And if students didn't want to participate, I asked them to move towards the back. Kids at the front got more candy, lots and lots of candy. I brought bags of it. And the kids at the back got none. They noticed that and they started wanting to be towards the front, but they had to engage to be at the front. And I kept repeating the rules and thanking them with candy for those who were playing along. And I kept their learning moving forward the whole time. I went through so much candy. Day 2 was more of the same, but the students self-selected to sit closer to the front. They knew what was going on. There were still a few who stayed towards the back, but it was just a small contingent of them compared to the first day. And we started having a lot of fun at the front of the room within the content of the class. Day 3, something happened that was hilarious. The principal dropped by to find out why no one was getting sent to the office. She told me that it had become so obvious because even with the regular teacher there, she would get kids almost every hour. And in the 2.5 days I was there, she didn't get anyone for my room. For a first-year grad student, I was feeling like I had discovered a pot of gold. By the end of the week, the students were begging me to come back to be their full-time teacher. And the principal, who was an adjunct instructor at a teacher prep program at a different university, asked me to come in and be a guest speaker in her class. I'm telling you, this stuff works. So, to sum up, putting these 5 requirements of tight classroom management in place can change your teaching life. It won't happen overnight, but this is the recipe that you've been waiting for. Thank you to the authors of the paper that I cited for organizing this information so clearly. I did my experiment at the middle school in 2006, and I had to condense an entire book of applied behavior analysis to come up with my plan. You get this one slide that summarizes it all. But please come back and learn more about each of these requirements in future videos. If you like this content, please hit the like button and make sure you've subscribed. Please share this video with a few colleagues or an administrator or two. It will really help out my channel if you'd leave a comment about something you saw that connected with you. And I'd love to hear what you'd like to see me address in a future video. Until next time, stay strong, stay healthy, and get some rest.